friends. Welcome to the Inspiring Heights podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Kaiser, and I am so excited to be here with you today. Episode 7 is the first episode in our spring cleaning series, and I am so excited to bring you this conversation with my friend Megan. Megan and I go way back to the beginning of my social work days, and Megan trained me. I have a lot of credit to give her for the work that I did in the social work field. So I'm thankful for Megan and our friendship and that we got to reconnect. Megan is the owner of the Untangled Home in Jacksonville, Florida. She has a passion for helping busy families simplify their lives, starting with their home environment. Megan holds a master's in social work from Florida State University and is a certified simplicity parenting family coach. Megan combines her mental health background, her understanding of family systems, and her proven method of organizing chaotic spaces to help clients release years' worth of accumulation and create systems that serve their families every day. You guys, Megan is fantastic. This conversation is so fun. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Let's start by telling our guests how we know each other.
Well, so Vanessa, I met you when you were just a baby bachelor's degree student and came to Bethany, where I was working at the time. And I remember seeing you on the couch and you were interviewing and thinking, she's just a baby. But you turned out to be ridiculously smart and very good at what you did. And so just got to watch you grow in that role. And that was a long time ago. Lots happened since
It was
then,
a long time ago. I was trying to tell Ben the other day about that story when there were three of us. Renee was there with us and we were sitting around the table and we had a coworker in Wyoming who was on the phone and something funny happened and I spit my water all over you guys. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
And then we couldn't get it together. We were laughing so hard that our coworker hung up the phone because she was done.
I forgot about that. That was so funny.
Oh my goodness. We had a lot of good times. You taught me a lot. We always joked about that after you left. Like Renee would say, well, Megan taught Vanessa and because when Marcy came, it was just funny. Marcy was like the happy medium between Renee and I. And so I obviously leaned more like your way, right? Like I was really more, we always joked prove to me why I can trust you. And then Renee's more prove to me why I shouldn't trust you, you know? And we always laughed about that. Good times. So you own your own business, the Untangled Home. And tell us how that started.
So the Untangled Home started kind of as a hobby and an experiment, I guess I would say. I was a social worker for 15 years and worked with families in all different capacities and sometimes pretty long term. A year, 2 years working on, the same issues with the same group of people. And in the time that I was doing that, I had a couple of kids that were very young and not sleeping through the night, and I was exhausted and overwhelmed. And so in my own home, I started looking for how can I reduce my stress. And I specifically remember sitting in my living room one day, the house was full of all the kid things exploded everywhere. And I was like, I can clean this up. And it just became very clear to me, I just needed to clean this up and clear this out. And so that started a progression in my own home where I got really into creating the physical space for the life that I wanted. And the more I let go of, the more I felt like my life at home with my kids I could manage. And so I started seeing a direct correlation between my stress and how my home environment was. Yeah. So I guess if I'm going to tell my whole story, what ended up happening was I got rid of absolutely everything, including the house. We moved into an RV and we traveled for 2 years. Yeah. That is not what I try to get my clients to do, but that's the progression that it went for me, which you knew me during those crazy years and probably wondered what had happened. We still look back at that and we're like, what happened? But it was just kind of this realization that everything that we own, we're responsible for, and it requires maintenance, and it requires energy, it requires money, it requires time. And so we had this realization of like, the less that we own, the less that we have to manage. And then we can actually focus on our kids, and we can focus on adventures and having fun and things that we didn't have time for when we were trying to maintain this kind of typical American lifestyle. So for us, that led to traveling for a while. And then we landed in Florida, and I started just kind of a very minimal home here. We weren't sure if we were going to stay here long term or what we were going to do. And so I furnished a rental house with like secondhand stuff and just started very small. And then eventually we have a house and a more traditional lifestyle, but really focus on trying to keep things simple. But in the meantime, while I was doing that, I had other people see the way that we lived and ask me to come help them because they were overwhelmed in their homes. And it was something that I really enjoyed doing. And I think the reason why was because you can go into a home, you can identify what the problems are. Is it that the pantry is getting expired because they can't see what's in there? Is it that they have clothes left from high school and they're in their 50s and they're just everything is packed? Because we do that. Yeah. So you can identify what the problem is, and within a few sessions, you take care of the problem. And that was so refreshing to me after being in the mental health field for so long. It was like just to be able to see a tangible problem, do something about it, and reduce your client's stress, increase their well-being in the process of doing that. So as I started having more and more like friends ask me for help, someone was like, you need to start charging for this. So at that time, I didn't really know what a professional organizer was. Yeah. But I created a website and said, this is what I can do. And then I realized later that that was professional organizing. And so I took Untangled Home in that direction. And now we have a team of 6 people that can go. And it's really fun because we can go into a home that is, you know, the other day we went into a girl's home, just young professional, traveled a lot, didn't have much time to take care of things. And just years and years of build up. And we were able to, within 3 days, it went from somewhere she was embarrassed to let people even come in to just this beautiful home. Yeah. And so we're able to just do a quick turnaround. And what we're noticing too is a lot of times once our clients have that momentum of having made that transformation in their life, they're able to maintain it. It's just kind of getting there that they need the extra bump with. And so it really ends up being a kind of a transformation for people. So that was kind of where Untangled Home went. And it's still very much in development right now. Yeah. So
that's so cool. I've never heard the whole story. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Do you do like virtual sessions, or do you only serve people right there in Florida?
So I have a second kind of a wing of Untangled Home that's called Simplify Organized Style. Okay. And that is a partnership between myself and an interior decorator, because we've noticed that not only, and honestly, she helped me. So this is where this started. I had gotten to where I had pared everything down and had really minimized my house to the point where I didn't want to have to handle or manage anything. And that's not necessarily what I do with my clients. It's just where I preferred to live in my own space, I guess. Then I met an interior decorator who was like, your house is sad. People should not live like this. And so she came in and helped me kind of add the coziness back into my house.
Yeah.
And is very talented in doing that. And so we ended up becoming good friends and created Simplify Organized Style, because we found that a lot of people want to have a home environment that feels good and that is, you know, decluttered and clear and decorated, but don't know how to get there. And so that program is online and it's a monthly membership. And when people get into there, they access a course of like how to declutter, how to organize, and how to style your home on your own. And then through the membership, every month we tackle a different space in the home. And so that's kind of a way to do it where you don't have to have people actually come into your home and have the expense of that. And then it makes us able to serve a larger area. So
yeah, that's really cool. Oh, I love it. I love it. So we are getting ready to launch a spring cleaning series on Inspiring Heights. And I know we joked about this, that cleaning is not your favorite thing to do in the whole world.
No.
But one of the things I feel like is true is that when people decide that it's time for spring cleaning, when they're going to reset their home for a new season, typically it does lead to organization of some kind. And so from your professional opinion, how do people prepare for spring cleaning? What's the best? So I'm thinking like we're going to pull everything out of the closet. We're going to decide what goes back in. And how do we make sure that we don't pull everything out of the closet and then just leave it on the bed for a few weeks?
or years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I would definitely, so yes, cleaning is not my favorite thing, which is one of the things that I love about owning less is it's less to clean. But I think that what I would tell my clients is if you don't have someone there supporting you, then take it shelf by shelf, drawer by drawer, and do pull everything out, because it's amazing once you really look at what is in your space, not just picking off of the top, but actually clearing everything out and deciding what deserves to go back in. You're able to purge a lot more because there's a lot that we're just keeping off of default. And I think there's such a bigger connection where that's kind of what we do with life too, right? If we're not intentional about what we're letting into our time, what we're not, what relationships we're letting into our life, we just kind of live in default. And so I really think it's a cleansing practice to take things that are physical items in our home and to take into consideration, is this still serving me? Is this something that I want to bring in my life moving forward? And if the answer is no, then you can let it go. And one thing that I talk to my clients about too is just shop your stuff. And if you wouldn't buy it and you wouldn't bring it home again today, then you probably don't need it.
Yeah.
So if you can really kind of ruthlessly go through what you own and take out what's not serving you, it's going to make it so much easier to stay organized. And if you have someone supporting you, like there are professional organizers all over the country, and if you want to make the process go faster, you can connect with someone. But if you're on your own, there's still ways that you can get support. So you could partner up with a friend and do your house one day and the friend's house another day, because a lot of the reason that people hire us is they need someone there. They need a designated time, they need a designated space, and a person to hold them accountable to actually getting it done. Yep. So you can do that without hiring someone if you can partner up with someone else who's doing it. And that's kind of the Simplify Organized Style program too. We do a weekend work session. So we're once a month. It sounds so awkward, and it is a little awkward, but it's also very effective. We all get on Zoom, we put on a playlist, and everybody works on whatever space we're working on. And so it's just that accountability of like designating the time, designating the space so that you can get it done.
Yep. That's really cool. I think that's one of the, I love the like drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf, because I do think that's something that happens is that we get ambitious and then we pull everything out, and then our phone rings and there's like a work emergency, or our kids are like, it's time for dinner, right? And then we don't get back to it. Or when we get back to it, we are not nearly as motivated as we were when we started. And so more goes back than probably what should.
Right. And maybe in worse shape than when you pulled it out originally because you shove it back.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the other thing that I talk with clients about too is it really makes a difference what category you start with, because a lot of people are like, I need to get rid of all of these things that I inherited from my grandmother, and I need to make decisions about that. So I always tell people, start with something that is completely non-sentimental, something that you have really no emotional feeling when you see it. Yeah. And a lot of times for people, that's a bathroom vanity. And so go through and get rid of all the lotion that you bought but didn't like the smell, or all of the things. Those actually, cosmetics even have expirations, and so that can make that easy. Yeah. So make the easy decisions first, because learning to make decisions is part of the process and it gets easier. And so if you start with something that's an easy space, like a bathroom vanity or your spice cabinet, and you're just literally checking dates or getting rid of things that you don't like, then when you actually get onto things that matter more to you, maybe it's your clothes, and maybe it's, photos or whatever else, you've already practiced that skill of making decisions, and it's not so overwhelming at that point. So going in the right order can make a big difference.
For sure. What do you say about things that we use very infrequently, but when we need them, but we really, like, for example, like a juicer, a lemon juicer, an electric lemon juicer. Okay, like, I got this on sale and it's really cute and I use it like maybe once a year. What do you say about that? Stuff like that. How do you process through things like that in your home?
So everything that you own, you have to weigh what's more important, the space or owning this thing. And so I always tell my clients, if you have a lot of storage space and you can easily keep things without it interfering with your day-to-day life, then you can keep a few more things and things that you don't maybe use on a regular basis. Sometimes people get to where they can't even function in their kitchen because they have so many of those once in a while things. And so then you need to think about like the real estate that's taking up, being your entire kitchen, is worth more than juicing a lemon by hand once a year when you need lemon juice. You know what I mean? And so it really is person by person, space by space, because some people have the luxury of a lot of storage space. And if they choose to fill it, they can. But if you don't have that, then you have to make those decisions about everything you keep as a trade-off for space. And also time and all of that too. But I always ask people, is there something else that you could use instead? So yes, you're using this thing, but if you didn't have it, could you use something else instead? And a lot of times people can get creative and think of another solution.
Yeah, so. I love that. So when you go to the store and you're shopping, actually, I'm curious, how often do you go shopping now that you don't have a lot of things in your home?
So I still have a lot of humans in my home and a sheepadoodle. And so a lot. The thing is, I don't go mindlessly anymore. And I used to just for stress. Actually, that's when I decided to get into the whole, let's just sell it all and move into an RV, because I was walking around Target mindlessly one night and just managing my stress through being at Target, which is expensive. And that's how you accumulate all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't do that anymore. I don't shop for a stress relief or without an intention of what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
But I still do bring stuff home because I want our kids to have, toys, and I want them to have enough clothes to get through the week, those sorts of things. But I just am very intentional about the number of what I have. So my kids have enough clothes to get through 10 days so that if we can only do laundry on the weekend and they get their outfit wet 3 mornings on, before school, we still have something to change into. So, really being mindful about how much do you actually need, and still shopping for those things, but just really being careful about the excess. And then when we lived in the RV, we had 350 square feet maybe. And so it really got you aware of if I'm going to bring something in, I've got to let something else go to make space for that. So we still kind of follow that as well. If I'm going to buy something new, a new wreath for our door, let's say, because now we live in the South and everybody puts big wreaths on their door, which I love. But if I'm going to bring a new one home, then I'm going to get rid of the one that's old rather than leave it in my garage for the next 25 years. So really just having that awareness, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Something comes in, something goes out.
Yeah.
So is that the question that you ask then when you're shopping? Oh, I really love this. What do I have to get rid of at home? Do you have a list of questions that you go through in your brain?
Not really. I mean, if you look on Pinterest or things like that, you'll find those questions. I think for me, it was, and for a lot of my clients, I see them do this too. Since really ultimately I'm just taking them through the same process I went through myself. But once you've thoroughly gone through and gotten rid of all of your stuff and you've seen how much work that is, you definitely have this tug when you bring anything home, oh gosh, I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And I've heard, even clients that have really full houses, I've heard that feedback from them as well. It just makes you just naturally more reluctant to bring stuff home when you really see what it takes to let stuff go, because it's time consuming. It's load after load to donation centers. For us, it was garage sales and all the Facebook marketplace ads where people say they're going to show up to look at something and then they don't. And it's all of this time, all of this effort. And so it just naturally makes you a lot more reluctant to bring things home. So I'm sure some people probably would respond well to a list of questions. It's something that I didn't really need because of going through the trauma of getting through everything in the first place. We're not going back to that.
We're not doing that again. I don't need that bag.
Yeah.
So you come from the mental health world. How does clutter impact our brains?
So there is solid research out there now. And it's funny because I tell my clients about the research and they're like, we don't need to know about the research. We feel it ourselves, And so I think that's evidence in itself. But there is research now that if you are in a cluttered environment, your cortisol levels, so the stress chemicals that are in your brain, are higher than if you're in a clear environment. The thing that I think is really interesting about that is men and women respond differently. And so a man is in a cluttered environment, their cortisol levels will go up. women, our cortisol levels go up, but they don't go back down. So men, when they leave that environment, their cortisol levels go back down, where ours stay elevated. And so it's this situation where you get stressed out in your closet in the morning getting ready for work because you can't find what you need because it's all cluttered and you have way too much. That's going to follow you as you make your coffee, get in your car, and start driving down the road. Your brain is still impacted by the closet that you got ready in. So there's a huge payoff to clearing some of that out because you're starting your day literally in a better mental space. Yeah. One of my favorite studies, and I can't remember the source of it. I'll have to look it up to see if you can link it. But they did a study where people were offered cookies in a cluttered environment and in an uncluttered environment. And we all know that they ate more cookies if they were surrounded by clutter than if they didn't, if they weren't surrounded by clutter. And so it does just kind of give you this feeling of just not functioning at your best. And so that's what I love about this field, is that you can literally just change the physical environment and someone is going to be in a better mental space at the end of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So when people look at your website, they will see this, I think. But when you're helping people to organize and to clean out, what is your take? Because everyone has a little bit of a different take on this. What is your take on like the cute little containers that help things be organized? How do we choose the right ones? Are they important?
Yes. So my thoughts on this have changed over the last few years, but the first thing is, if you own less, you don't really need to be all that organized. I don't know if you remember frazzled me that was a social worker years ago, but I am still that frazzled, free-spirited, hot mess of a person. So that's one of the reasons I like to own less, right? Because there was a quote like giving a disorganized person 25 t-shirts is like giving a toddler a bottle of sprinkles without the lid on it. And that's totally how it is. Like, it's just not going to end well. So people who aren't naturally organized people need to just have less.
Sure.
If you have less, you don't need all the containers. So that used to be my go-to, was just have less. You don't have to be that organized. Well, obviously that does not sell. So people love containers and they love labels and they love all of those things. And so I started getting clients asking me to do that. And so I have to say, now that I am kind of in that world, I love it. Like, there's nothing more fun than a pantry that is just well contained and labeled, and even for someone who's more of a free spirit like me, just having things in categories and zones and having it visually. I went to look at this lady's garage today, and it was just this, it was basically like surfboards and a ping pong table and a few tools, but she just had this area that was like kind of just a pile.
Sure.
And it was on a shelf, but I'm like, okay, we need cabinets where we can close this off. And ideally it be like aqua green or something, to take this pile of clutter and turn it really cute and behind closed doors, And so there is something just visually, aesthetically with that I think it's legit. I think I maybe didn't realize, at first, but I think I'm all about all of the cute containing now that I'm a little ways into this.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that.
Choosing containers after you've already purged. So, because sometimes people I've had people show me their container rooms where they've tried to buy so many containers to fix their problem, but really their problem was way too much stuff, including containers. So doing that purge first and then looking at what you have left to contain it then.
Yeah.
So that was my advice.
That's good. That's good to know. So don't go to Target first.
Don't go to Target first.
Go to Target last. Okay. What resources would you point people to who just want to learn more about how clutter affects their brain, how to stay in good rhythms that keep their house tidy and clear?
Mm-hmm. One would be Simplify Organized Style, which I can get you a link to that. Yeah. If you're wanting to really commit to a membership and learning it over a period of time, because it's something that takes a while. It's not something that you learn overnight. But YouTube is incredibly valuable. If you look up, that's where I first started learning what minimalism was by watching. And then you're able to be specific, like minimalism with kids versus the guy that lives with a backpack, and responsibilities, bless him. So Um, so I learned a lot just by looking, at people whose lives I could relate with and starting to follow their stuff. Instagram, obviously the same. Then obviously you're getting a very well curated version of people's lives. So you have to be cautious with that,
Sure.
But you can learn a lot. And then one of my favorites is Marie Kondo, she's the Japanese organizing expert. And I had been decluttering for about a year before her book came out, The Magic Art of Tidying Up.
Yeah.
But I would say that it was when I found that book and read through it and started applying her stuff when it really started to click for me. So
And
definitely recommend.
She's the one who says if it doesn't bring you joy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
Yeah.
This is really, really good. So in summary, what would you say if you had to give one piece of advice to people as they're starting to look at spring cleaning? What would it be?
I would say just be aware as you're doing it that you're taking care of yourself by taking care of your space. And so don't see it as a chore so much as self-care. And I talk with my clients about honoring their work. And so do some work to take care of yourself and then honor that by maintaining it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So even if it's going to be a small space, do it well and do it with the attitude of, not resentment over it needing to be done, but more wanting to give yourself that increased clarity, wanting to give yourself that increased calm, and then honor the work that you do by maintaining it and not just letting it go, back to square one. So it might be better to do a small space that you can maintain rather than trying to do your whole house in a weekend and having it be more than you can manage. So
yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Because the show is Inspiring Heights, we always ask our guests what's inspiring them right now. So what is inspiring Megan today?
That's a really good question. Gosh, so many things. Right now I'm building a business and I'm not a business person. I'm actually kind of building two businesses and I'm not a business person. So I'm a member of several female entrepreneur groups.
Yeah.
And I would say that those women are inspiring me right now. Getting to know other people who are building things, even if they're building things that are different from what I'm building, has been just crucial to me in the last year.
Yeah.
And just approaching that with not a sense of competitiveness, but a sense of wanting to hang out with people and let some of their drive rub off on me. And I think it's incredibly effective. And I'm just so thankful for the people that have let me in to watch what they're building.
Yeah.
So, and that is inspiring to me. Like when I saw that you're building this podcast, I love that. Oh. I love just watching people build things. So
yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yes, it was. Friends, isn't she just the best? I'm so thankful that she said yes to being on the podcast and that we could learn from her wisdom and her experience. And I hope that you found it to be helpful and that you can apply some of the tips that Megan shared with us today. I know that we are definitely going to be taking a good, hard look at that. Hey, I just want to let you know that anything we talked about today, including the link to the Untangled Home, can be found in the show notes. So don't forget to check out Megan's website and explore and see if that's a right fit for you. As always, we would be so honored if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review if you haven't done so, and then share with your friends who you think might be interested in the show. You can always find us on Instagram and Facebook at Inspiring Heights. We would love to hear from you. And if you have any ideas for the show, you can always check us out at inspiringheights.org. Click on the podcast tab, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see a button with a mountain where you can submit any ideas for podcast content that you may have. All right, friends, that is all for today. Until next time, take a deep breath and be inspired where your feet are. Bye for now.